the window, but really it's the first floor. And he's just like, he literally gets up. It's one of the best lines where he gets up and just shakes his hand and goes, asshole. Like, he didn't mean to do it. He was asleep, you dill.
And it looked like an A&R line, because it looked like he was saying more words, and all that came out of his mouth was asshole.
Yeah, it was. He did say more. I don't know what he said, because, again, these people are not talking. So this is where Maggie, I guess, calls a midnight meeting. I really don't know when this happens. I'm guessing it's the next day, but you never know. And she goes, well, what were you dreaming about? And he says, I don't know, a town, a house. I'm like, no, you weren't. I mean, well, I guess he was. I guess he was supposed to be back in Freddy's house, but it still kind of just looked like the shelter. No, sorry. He does walk up Freddy's stairs. My apologies. And he just sort of goes, a little house, a girl, something from my article, and she's like, the little girl, what does she look like? Blonde hair, brown hair, red ribbons. They both say red ribbons at the same time. Oh my God, they're dreaming about the same little girl. And then they cut to, I guess, a conversation we'd never heard where they say they're going to go back to Springwood. And she's like, I've dealt with amnesiacs before. I'll take you back to Springwood and some spark will trigger something. And he's like, no, you go. I'll stay here, sparkless but happy. She's like, don't worry, I'll be right there with you. Because clearly she's falling in love with him. Which is what ends up kind of happening, which is awkward.
Is that what happened?
I don't know. It's just a weird
Or is that how you read into it?
It's how I read into it, because there's a weird acting choice that Lisa Zane makes later in the movie. He is, and she's supposed to be 30. I don't know. But there's a weird acting choice later on that I'll point out that I don't understand.
In this movie.
That I don't understand why she does that. So they take the van.
And they're Springwood bound.
Yeah, so they head to Springwood, and they're talking or whatever, and then he's asleep, and then they hit a bump, which, it's a nightmare film, let's face it. He's still asleep. He's like, I told you not to let me fall asleep. She doesn't answer. Little girl telling him to go back. He tries to fucking turn the car around. He's asleep. She's trying to wake him up. They slam on the brakes. The fucking 3 kids who paid the van driver, Carlos, Tracy, and Spencer, fly forward. Holy fuck, what are you doing here? Kind of thing. And then Maggie loses her shit on them. And she's like,
when we get to Springwood, we're calling somebody to come pick you up.
Yeah. And then, like, she's like, we're gonna find a telephone, you're gonna call him, whatever. And she's like, don't scream at me. And I'm like, well, fucking asshole, you broke the rules. But Tracy has a problem with authority. We know why.
So they cut to the world's saddest fair.
The saddest fair ever.
Man.
And, like, it's saddest yet most entertaining I've ever seen. Because there's some shit that's not funny, but I'm sorry. This is where you laugh at mental illness. Is the dude riding around in the fucking bumper car in a circle is my favorite fucking shot in the whole movie. Because he's not even doing that, because he's also going brrr, brrr. Like, I'm sorry, this is fucking hilarious. Like, there's a cockroach running over a pizza, and I'm like, who are you making these things for? I mean, there's nobody there.
So, they're terrified to see children.
Yeah, because they're just like, go away, and they're like, what the fuck is going on here? And then eventually...
Except for one adult.
Yeah, well, we'll get there. John sort of goes, there's no kids. It's a town fair, but there's no kids.
Easy, it's a town...
Well, it's a town fair, but there's no one left in the town.
It's a town fair.
I mean,
it's a fair.
I'm guessing most of the parents don't bother showing up. Yeah, but you know what? The only people who show up to the town fair when there's no kids are crazy people. That's why it is what it is. And then, so the kids try to call, and then the phone doesn't work. And then they're just like, phone's out of order, so's this town. No kidding. And then all of a sudden, because while they're trying to make the phone call, we see a face peer in.
Yeah.
And it's like, and then she walks over to them and it's just like, oh my God, such adorable little children. This is Roseanne, by the way. And, like, puts her face up to them and, like, hugging, kissing them.
You 25-year-old children are so great.
And then fucking Tom Arnold, Captain Southern over here, literally chewing tobacco.
No, Ethel, you leave
him. Ethel, you leave him alone. Like, he's like, leave him alone. You know they bring him. And I'm like, how do you know about him? You're not supposed to know. You're not supposed to believe it, because in the beginning it tells us this is 10 years from now. All the kids have been popped.
Yeah, it's 1999.
Yeah. Well, the timeline is we don't know. That's why I didn't mention it, because I don't know what time. I mean, technically you would think yes, 1999 or 2001, but no, because the timeline of the franchise is I don't know what fucking year it is. Somebody says 99. 10 years from now, when it's 91, would be 2001. I don't fucking know, so I'm just going to ignore
it. No, but the movie comes out in 91.
Uh-huh. And it says 10 years from now, which would make it 2001.
But the movie's not set in 91. It's set in... Because the last movie was set in 89, just because it was just because said film was filmed in 89 doesn't mean that this film is...
No, I know, and that's why I'm saying I'm not giving it an exact thing.
So it's...
Because when the typewriter stuff comes up, and it says, Springwood, Ohio, 10 years from now, what now are they talking about?
It could be 99, 2000, 2001.
Could be
somewhere in that
3-year
window.
Could also be much later than that because of when the franchise actually takes place, because we don't ever actually know.
Right.
So
I'm just going based off like plot synopsis and stuff.
But it's still a little weird, is all I'm saying. So it's sketchy as to when it is, because nobody actually knows when these movies take place. That's why I think after the third one I stopped talking about when I think they were taking place, because none of it makes any sense anymore.
Well,
but
to
anyway,
you, but other people...
but they can say that, but I don't buy it, because it just... The way it's filmed and the way everything goes, the timeline doesn't work out. So
the Tom and Roseanne cameo ended. Like, he just grabs her and they...
Well, what happens is that bell rings.
Yeah.
And that somehow... fucking somehow makes Tom Arnold think the fucking Freddy's showing up.
Yep, he's like, so you see what you done did?
Yeah. And they're like, I don't know what you're talking about. Go away, creepy man. And then he does. He grabs Roseanne, and we never see them again, and I still question as to why that was in the movie. And then they walk back, because they're like, have we seen enough? Yeah, let's go. This is when the Twin Peaks line came in. And, so they walk back to Maggie, and Maggie doesn't even ask how it goes, just says, okay, now get in the van and leave. How were they getting home?
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I was confused about, okay, you three drive out of here, and me and John will stay here.
Yeah. And my question is, okay, so they ran away. So you think...
You're going to give them a van and they're just going to go back.
And they're just going to go home. No.
Which they were.
Yeah, they were. They were trying to get out. Yeah. Whether they actually went back, I'm sure they could probably be talked out of it. Because it's not like we lived in a time of GPS. You know what I mean?
Well, because she literally, Spencer keeps offering Tracy a map because they keep running around in circles.
Carlos did that. So what ends up happening is they're driving around a circle. This is where Freddy's fucking with shit, because they keep seeing a statue of a Boy Scout saluting, and it says, "The children shall endure." Ironic in Springwood, huh? And then they drive one way, and then they end up back. They drive another way, they end up back, and then fucking Carlos is just like, "Do you want the map now?" And she's like, "I don't need any fucking map." And then Carlos falls asleep in the back.
Oh, no, I think it's Spencer who's offering the map, and Carlos gives him the map.
Spencer offers once, and then Carlos does. Sorry.
And then the whole,
and he's and this is actually when Spencer lights up a joint, because we got to find out he's a stoner, too. So he lights up a joint, and then they're like, do you have to do that? You're such a high-o, which I'm like, that's not a thing. I've never heard the term higher.
No.
But apparently that's what he does. And he offers it to Carlos. Carlos, I need all the senses I've got. Again, he's deaf. And Tracy says, put that out or I'm going to fucking kill you. Literally.
Yeah.
And then he's like, all right. And then he puts it out and he says to her, you need to get laid. Not so much.
No.
And then Carlos passes out. And this is the one legitimate nod to Twin Peaks. This is what they were trying to do. She asks Carlos for the map. And Carlos opens up the map. And opens more. And opens more. And opens more, and opens more, and to the point it fills up the entire van. And he's like, what the fuck is going on? He's freaking out. And he pulls up one piece, and it just writes on it, "You're fucked." And then...
How does that connect to Twin Peaks?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know, but that's what they said in the interviews. They said that was their nod to Twin Peaks. I've never seen the show, so I don't know. I would assume you could figure that out, because I don't know.
No, guys.
That's what they're telling me. I don't know. There might be a reason for it. Maybe it's
giant maps in
maybe it's
Twin
within
Peaks.
the tone. Maybe it's the joke. I don't know. But then, basically, he wakes up, throws the fucking map, and she goes, "Carlos, I asked you for the map." And he says, "Yeah, well, the map says we're fucked," which is probably the only legitimate funny joke in the movie.
Yep.
Ironically, the TV version, they actually did do in the second take where it says you're screwed for the TV version.
And he probably says, the map says we're screwed.
Yeah, but that was ADR after that. They didn't refilm that. They just had literally have him holding up a different one. And then they switch. Spencer tries driving because he says, "You've had two chances. It's my turn." And then he tries driving again, and this is where we cut back to Maggie. Although we've been cutting in.
Cutting in back and forth. It's Maggie and John. They come up to a painting of Freddy on the sidewalk.
Yeah.
And this is where the 1-2 Freddy's
coming for you.
And then they're just traced throughout.
And they
the
literally,
film,
as the next thing they
through.
do is they walk up to and they're like, well, let's see what happened to the school because somebody rang those bells. So they go up to the schoolhouse, and this is walking up. You see 3, 4. Better lock your door. Then they go into a classroom, and there's a dude teaching away to no one. He's teaching Freddy 101. Although we don't know that yet.
Yeah.
He comes in, and he's talking. She's like, don't disturb him. So he's just like...
Don't disturb him. Why not? He's not actually teaching anyone, Maggie.
He literally is like, in 1492, Freddy sailed the ocean blue. And it's like, what the fuck's he talking about? And then they're just sort of going, and they're looking around, and she just goes like all these clippings of these dead children, and she just goes, all these happened within a 10-year period. What the hell happened here? And he said, Freddy happened here. And then they show that the piece of the article he had matches up with another one. She's just like, John, like, look. And then this is when the fucking teacher notices they're there. It's like, welcome to Freddy 101. And he starts talking again, and he pulls down a thing, like a map, like those old roll things that they have. I'm sure they don't have those now. And it says 5-6, grab your crucifix on it. And then he says, this is where they took away his child. And they go, wait, what? Freddy had a kid. Freddy had a kid! And then they it's like, oh my god, he had a kid. And then they leave.
And then they took her away.
And this is where, took him to the town orphanage.
Yeah.
And this is where the teacher hams it up a bit. It's just like, 1494, Freddy came back to look for more. Literally gives that performance.
Yep.
Hilarious.
Well, this fella made a choice.
He did.
This movie is a movie of choices.
It is a movie of choices of, like, we're just going to let him go, which I kind of respect.
So the kids find themselves in Freddy's house.
Mm-hmm. Well, they decide that they're going to get some rest because it's now dark, and they've been driving all day and they can't get anywhere, and, like basically Spencer pulls up and just like, there's no way out, and she goes, well, not with you driving.
It's like, took me half the time.
Yeah, he's just like, well, you didn't do any better. She's like, but at least it took me half the time. So they basically like, fuck it, we're getting some rest. She fucks off, and they're like, come on, Tracy, let's just find Maggie. No, I'm not turning myself over to adults. And they have a little bit of like a little...
You mean peers?
Like, yeah. Really. And they have the two guys have a little thing of like, sad thing is I'm starting to like her. He's like, that is sad. And then literally the camera pulls up and they're on Elm Street.
Yep.
Okay.
Do you get it?
Michael, Rachel. It's not a literal street that you... but never mind. I don't... So they go onto Elm Street and they find... we cut back to Maggie, but we'll just cover this of how they get in here so we can talk about the model. So they find a house that looks so prim and proper, and they're like, all right, this is where we're going to go hang out. She kicks open the door, and they go in. And then the house burps. I don't know. Just starts bubbling. And explodes. And clearly it's a model. And all the pieces fall off, whatever, and fucking... It just basically, all these, shrubs and shit come up. And it's basically Freddy's house.
Yeah.
It's the Elm Street house that they've got into. He just made it look all pretty in the front. I don't know.
Yeah, to just trick them in.
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah.
So they get in and they're gonna go sleep for the night. So
Carlos is gonna go find somewhere to sleep.
he finds the dustiest fucking bed, but he's like, beach the streets.
He's like, oh,
and
this is good. This is good. This
Carlos, you weren't on the streets, dude. You weren't at...
Well, he was at one point.
Right.
He was a deaf kid on the streets at one point, so this is probably a step up. Not a step up from where he just was, but it is better than the streets, so he is correct. Why they need to leave the shelter, I don't know.
So he passes out.
Yeah, he goes to sleep. He's like, I'm going to get some sleep, and then I will get us out in the morning. Carlos and Tracy were only going to let him sleep for 10 minutes, but we didn't know that. So
blink, blink.
He basically, Tracy does a jump scare on Spencer, and then they're like, all right, Carlos, get the fuck out. And she's calling for Carlos, and he wakes up like, what? What?
Yeah, because he can hear her.
Yeah, she's calling
again. I'm like,
well, you can hear people saying things in your dream.
Yeah. No, but has that hasn't happened in
what?
In the other movies?
Yeah, it did. It happened in the first one.
Did it? Okay.
Yeah. She asks. Nancy asks Johnny Depp when he's watching her sleep. Ask, are you still there? And he pops out behind a fucking tree. He's like, yeah. So.
Yeah, but they interact with each other. This is literally just a voice off.
Yeah, but you still can hear. But I mean, it's the same premise. He's just not communicating with her. Although it also could be that, Johnny Depp might have been asleep in the movie. Like Glenn could have been asleep. Yeah. We don't know because he does end up sleeping. But then he gets up.